The 9th of June 1980 in Forest Lake, Minnesota was the birthplace of Pete Hegseth, whose given name is Peter Brian Hegseth. Patriotism, human values, and the importance of hard labor were instilled in him from an early age in his small, tight-knit town. The credit goes to Brian and Penny Hegseth, his parents. The reason he is a conservative now, we feel, is because of his upbringing and the values he was taught. After graduating from Forest Lake Area High School in 1999, he attended Princeton University and earned a bachelor's degree in the arts. Little Hegseth had a genius mind. He excelled in the classroom and on the field. Peter was quite active in extracurriculars during his time at Princeton University. He contributed to the Princeton Tory, a student publication, alongside other writers. Conservative political philosophy was the focus of this publication. Aside from that, he possessed exceptional athleticism. While at Princeton, Peter was a member of the men's basketball team, the Princeton Tigers. In 2003, he earned his degree from Princeton. Peter was always curious about the inner workings of the government and sought ways to improve it. Thus, he enrolled at the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University to gain a better understanding of these. What he learned at Harvard had a profound impact on his professional trajectory. That, too, will be addressed at a later time. Even though Harvard was pivotal, he learned the ropes in his hometown and used them to guide his life thereafter. He had a firm set of beliefs and values as a child in Minnesota that served him well in the military and throughout his life. Indeed, Peter served in the military. Let's discuss his function in that capacity. After finishing college, Pete Hegseth made tremendous strides forward in his life. The first financial institution he joined was Bear Stearns, a brokerage and bank that would go out of business later. At this place, Peter worked as an equity capital analyst. His second giant leap was enlisting in the military, where he could demonstrate his loyalty to his community and develop his abilities as a leader. You will have plenty of time and opportunities to do both in the Army. Peter served as an infantry officer in the United States Army National Guard. Pete was sent to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, in 2004 with his battalion. Back then, Peter was serving in the 101st Airborne Division as an infantry platoon leader with the Minnesota National Guard's 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment. The Army Commendation Medal was bestowed upon Pete in recognition of his exemplary performance throughout his time at Guantanamo Bay. His excellence as a military commander was on full display in this and many other missions. Peter spent some time in Iraq after his tour in Guantanamo Bay. He willingly agreed to do this. He led an infantry platoon in Baghdad and Samarra again. Military operations in Baghdad and Samarra are fraught with peril and difficulty. Pete went on to serve as an officer in charge of civil military activities. There were several obstacles that Pete had to overcome while serving in Iraq. Combat was a common component of these tests, which demanded fortitude and courage from those who faced them. Pete was awarded the Bronze Star Medal, the Combat Infantryman Insignia, and a 2nd Army Commendation Medal for his courageous actions. One may argue that Pete's time in the military was formative. It shows how much he cares about serving his county and protecting its ideals. The heroic things he accomplished during his time in Guantanamo Bay, Iraq, and Afghanistan have earned him the utmost respect from his fellow soldiers and senior officers. We would use the adjectives honesty, bravery, and selflessness to describe his time in the service. He considered options outside of the military that would allow him to serve his country and make a difference. When Pete Hegseth first became involved in politics, we should discuss that. Pete wanted to try his hand at politics after getting back from his deployments. His extensive tenure in the military allowed him to amass extensive knowledge of domestic and international affairs. He reasoned that he should use this opportunity to shape government policy. Hegseth decided to run for Minnesota's U.S. Senate in 2012. The conservative ideal of a patriotic man who is deeply committed to his loved ones and country was central to his campaign platform. He sought to portray himself as a devoted family man, and his wife and children played a significant role in this effort. That, to his dismay, did not work out so well. His family and the events that followed will be discussed later on in the video. We should return to his campaign now. He possessed a number of weapons beyond his conservative ideology and image as a family man. Pete fought for the rights of veterans. Beyond that, he aimed to further the causes of limited government and national security. Voters on the right side of the aisle rallied behind this. There were many who rallied behind his campaign, but he also encountered numerous obstacles. The politicians Pete was facing were more seasoned and resourceful. He dropped out of the race after a while, and Kurt Bills ended up getting the nomination. His time in politics was brief, but it provided Hegseth with invaluable experience. This further solidified his resolve to serve the public, and he eventually made the transition to the media. Pete started contributing to Fox News in 2014. He has continued to play a significant role in the network ever since. During both daytime and prime time, he provides commentary discussing his iconic roles. Unfiltered, co-hosted by Dan Bongino, features him as a frequent host. The series aired from 2020 to 2023. In addition to Unfiltered, Hegseth has been a significant Fox co-host. He co-hosted several notable events, including a 2018 phone conversation with Donald Trump. At that moment, Trump was serving as president. This happened on Kennedy Fox Business Network's All-American New Year on Fox Channel. The fact that Hegseth was able to secure an interview with the president demonstrates his considerable influence. Pete was also hosting Fox's famous New Year's Eve spectacular for the majority of that time. For example, Pete was selected to anchor the broadcast from Nashville, Tennessee's Wild Horse Saloon in 2022. This time he brought along Will Cain and Rachel Campos Duffy. Pete co-hosted Fox and Friends Weekend with Rachel and Will. When he wasn't hosting Fox News, Hegseth appeared in special projects where he became well-known and respected. Take the award event he hosted, for instance, which honored American patriots and their contributions to the country. The Fox Nation Patriot Awards were the name of this awards program. The Miseducation of America was also presented by Pete. The show's popularity stems from the fact that it traced the development of American education over the past century. Is everything okay now? Beyond television, Pete's unique relationship with Fox News was visible online as well. The book that Pete penned for Fox News Books became a national hit. The War on Warriors is the book that we are referring to. For the fourth time, Pete's book made it onto the New York Times bestseller list. National security and military matters are the subjects covered in this book, in case you were wondering. If we're talking about Pete's reading habits, the majority of his novels reflected his conservative worldview. A large portion of his life is devoted to conservatism. So it's crucial to comprehend his ideas. Now is the time to get into that. As a conservative, Pete does not hold back from expressing his views. He frequently appears on multiple occasions and venues to advocate for such causes. How did his way of thinking evolve into this? His opinions, in our opinion, stem from his upbringing. We are discussing his Christian beliefs, his history in the military, and his moral compass. We can go into depth about them. A robust national defense is something that Pete really believes in. What this means is that the nation's interests and reputation abroad depend on its capable military. It makes perfect sense. He knows firsthand the value of supporting current and former service members since he has been there and done that in Iraq and Afghanistan. Veterans receive his unwavering support. One of the key reasons why this gentleman is loved by many is because of this. In order to emphasize national security, Pete has using his position and platform to advocate for veterans' rights and highlight the need for increased funding. On the other hand, Pete doesn't just talk about national defense. Freedom of the individual and small government are topics he frequently discusses. When the government stays out of people's lives as much as necessary, we say that we have limited government. The people, and not the government, should have the majority of the power. He thinks this is the secret to a happy society. As a result, he occasionally makes the case that too much government meddling can stunt national productivity and economic progress. The conservative views put out by Hegseth were further advanced in works such as American Crusade and In the Arena. His conservative readers adored these books, and he gained even more admiration and popularity among them. Conservative groups and think tanks were Pete's other sources of inspiration, including books and the media. Advocating for policies that were congruent with his values was the objective. One might reasonably describe this as a little conservative movement. There was never any doubt that Pete is a very outspoken person, and this trait landed him in a lot of hot water throughout his books, interviews, and public appearances. Each of these deserves its own discussion. Finally, we'll get to the most contentious issue in his life, his marriage. Now we can get started. Pete was highly esteemed by Donald Trump for his military service and his unwavering support of the president. The post of Secretary of Veteran Affairs was one that Trump had considered for Pete at one point. Pete did not accept the position, but he did utilize his Fox News platform to confront Trump about some matters. The fact that Pete was defending 3 service members on charges of war crimes, including murder during their time in Afghanistan, was one such concern. Clint Lawrence, Eddie Gallagher, and Matt Goldstein were the 3 troops in question. In Hegseth's view, these 3 men were unjustly punished for an action they took when the country was at war, and he fought for their release. There were repercussions to standing up for these 3 men. Pete was first singled out as an outcast by the Pentagon. The second event was the dismissal of Richard V. Spencer, the Secretary of the Navy, on the grounds that he had carelessly and inadequately handled the Gallagher matter. This occurred this year, 2019. It was on December 15, 2018, when Pete first mentioned Matt Goldstein, that his campaign for these 3 men began. After admitting in a 2016 interview with Fox News' Brett Baier that he had killed a man suspected of being a bomb maker for the Taliban, Army Major Matt Goldstein was facing accusations from the prosecution. In 2010, this occurred. Some awful things happened to Matt after he accepted this on TV. After his case was reopened, his Silver Medal and Special Forces tab were revoked. Nevertheless, Pete supported Matt and hailed him as a hero despite the murder charges. It caught the eye of Donald Trump. Trump even tweeted the next day that he will to personally review this issue. Thanks to this tweet, Hegseth was inspired to step it up a notch. He spoke with Lawrence's mom, the wives of Gallagher and Goldstein, and a section from Fox and Friends. On the episode, the families broke down in tears as they discussed how much the prosecution had affected their lives. The case involving Eddie Gallagher quickly gained prominence and captivated the public's attention. The murder of a wounded soldier aged 15 and the use of a sniper weapon to shoot at people were among the charges leveled against Eddie by his fellow soldiers. While other Navy SEALs denounced Eddie's actions, he had right-wing sympathizers like Duncan Hunter and Dan Crenshaw who rallied behind him. This caused quite a stir. After praising Gallagher's acquittal on a major murder charge, Trump stepped in and ordered his release. But Gallagher was just found guilty of photographing a corpse. I thought Gallagher and Pete were going to come out on top here. But no, Pete felt dissatisfied with this alone. He insisted Gallagher be reinstated to his rank and yearned to witness him in action again. On behalf of Lawrence, Gallagher, and Goldstein, he even threatened to shoulder full responsibility for their acts. Finally, in 2019, Trump decided to pardon Lawrence, halt the prosecution of Goldstein, and reverse the punishment meted out to Gallagher. The Republican Party came to revere Gallagher and was a guest on multiple episodes of Fox and Friends. He painted these 3 guys as unsung heroes throughout the debate, saying they deserved no punishment. While Pete's media presence was colorful, it was also accompanied with scandals. It was on air when Pete nearly killed a man. Allow us to elucidate. Pete was filming a TV segment in observance of Flag Day on June 14, 2015. He axed a drummer inadvertently there. Fortunately, the drummer escaped unharmed. Thankfully, the situation de-escalated when the drummer was later spotted in a pleasant, cheery attitude. The month of May 2018 is another example. The New York Times, according to Hegseth, is a failing newspaper since it failed to report on the detention of 3 top ISIS militants. The story had really been reported in the New York Times earlier. A few media outlets and Hegseth got into an argument because of this. He made a contentious comment about Rashida Tlaib, a Muslim member of Congress, in July 2019. According to him, Rashida is working for Hamas. Many people thought this comment was offensive. In August 2019, he made headlines once again by claiming that elementary school curricula focus on less pressing issues, such as environmental protection, rather than more pressing ones such as Islamic radicalism. In January 2020, he once again became embroiled in controversy when he backed Trump's plan to assassinate Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani. Even more alarmingly, he urged Trump to strike Iranian cultural sites, locations that may potentially house terrorists or store weapons. Regarding the COVID-19 virus, Hegseth also had a notion. He stated that Democrats were plotting the spread of the coronavirus. Even more outrageously, he said the Democrats created the Omicron coronavirus variety in an effort to sway elections. Throughout his career, Pete was involved in more than his share of scandals. He was not afraid to say or do things his own way. However, there is a single disagreement that stands out and calls into question his entire set of values, his union. Pete thought of himself as a morally upright man. Being a devoted spouse and father was the cornerstone of his campaign platform. However, in 2009, he and his wife Meredith Schwartz divorced. In 2010, only a year after that, he tied the knot with Samantha Deering. 3 children were born to them. Unfortunately, he was only able to enjoy the high for a short while until his second marriage also ended in 2017. The long-term infidelity of Pete with Jennifer Rochette, his Fox executive producer, was the main factor in the couple's decision to divorce. As of August 2017, this was revealed. Even though they faced these obstacles together, Pete and Jennifer became closer, and in August of 2019, they were married at Trump National Golf Club. Jennifer brought 3 children from her prior marriage to the ceremony. Pete is a huge Trump supporter, as is well known at this point. He went completely bonkers when we sported the hats that inspired Make Wedding Great Again. Similar to Trump's Make America Great Again campaign slogan, this one was plagiarized. Even Pete's third marriage came to an end, so the happiness was brief. Infidelity was said to be the cause. Despite the lack of confirmation, these rumors appear to be founded on Pete's past. What we don't know, nevertheless, must not be said. If this were to be proven accurate, it would cast doubt on Pete's entire campaign and conservative ideology. Being a good teacher requires being a good preacher. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. If you think these reports are real or not, let us know in the comment area. Finally, we'll say goodbye and return in the following video. For tuning in, I am grateful. Get on board with our channel by subscribing.